Hey everybody, Mav Hunter here. Well, you can tell it's pre-dawn, pretty dark, so I'm going to head on out to my stand here. This is my third day of hunting desert mule deer in Arizona. I'm all set up. It's just starting to get light in the sky, so we'll see. I spotted a lot of deer in the agri fields, and I'm just waiting for them to move from the field to this bedding cover. So I've got the wind right, the wind's in my face. The sun's almost okay. It's a little in front of me, but it's to my east or to my left. So I should be okay until about 8:30. And then the sun would be on my face. So anyway, here we go. Third day of Arizona over-the-counter archery deer season. As the sun came up and was in my face, I moved off my stand to work down through the brush line, headed back to the vehicle. It's mid-morning, and I come across a group of 7 does, and there was a little buck with them, a little 2-point, but I wasn't interested in that. So I pause and watch these does because the deer are moving now, heading to their bedding zones in this thick brush, and I'm hoping that maybe a trophy buck walks out. The deer are nervous because the wind with this warming temperature is starting to swirl and the wind direction is starting to change for the day, similar to mountain thermals. And the deer are getting very nervous. What's making them more nervous is deer are snorting far to my left in the brush and also to my right in the brush out of camera. There's some deer snorting at a distance of 90 yards. A big snort went out from my left, and this will spook the deer. Because I've got the wind as right as I can get it, moving left to my right, and the sun, as you can see, my shadow is behind me, so it's pretty optimal stalking conditions. But I hadn't moved an inch since I spotted those deer. But just the sounds of the other deer snorting the alarm, that caused these deer to spook. I scanned to my rear here because I heard movement behind me and also another deer snort. I continue my hunt, moving through the brush, and the brush in Arizona seems that everything either pokes you, sticks you. So I'm trying to move as quietly as I can here, seeing what I can come upon, and you can see the numerous deer trails and the many deer tracks that are in this thick brushy area. This is the area the deer are moving through as they come out of the agri fields after feeding all night. So I'm slowly working my way here along this brush line, hoping to catch some deer transitioning like I did earlier in the morning. It's slightly overcast today, which is a good sign because the deer will move a little bit more. And being January and it's rut season, you just never know when a buck will cross your path. Therefore, I prefer to have an arrow nocked and ready to go. But I have to be very careful walking and stalking with an arrow nocked because of that blade that's hanging out there in front of the bow. But too many times I've spotted a deer, only they spot me first, which is usually the case. And by the time I reach for an arrow out of my quiver and knock it on the string, that amount of movement causes the buck to break away. And many times, even though I have an arrow nocked, sometimes if they see me first and I go to draw back, that movement of drawing the bow will also cause them to break away. So many times I will wait with the arrow nocked until the deer turns its head and looks the other way, and that's the time to then draw my bow as silently as I can. Here I come across a bobcat that stares at me for a number of seconds, and then it slowly starts to move off along the brush line. This bobcat is at a distance of 60 yards, so he's a pretty big cat. Minutes after seeing the bobcat, I moved down the brush line and I jumped a group of deer. And in that group near the rear, I saw one that had a substantial rack of antlers on his head. So I know it's a pretty good buck. The wind is moving again here a little bit towards my face, which is perfect. But instead of stalking along, I know I've already bumped those deer. I have a good idea of where these deer are headed. And being late afternoon, I believe they're headed toward the agri fields and the alfalfa and other feed. So here, I'm doing something I usually don't do hunting through this brushy area. I'm moving fast. So I'm pretty sure those deer are headed out to the field. So I've got to get through this brush line here. And I've got about a good quarter mile to work through this to reach that field edge where I hope to get a look at that big buck. Oh, these thorny manzanitas, they're hell to walk through. I'm getting close here. I'm coming up onto the edge of the field, sneaking through this old irrigation trench. And here's where I slow down. I have to be very careful with my movement. So I scan these fields using this brush for cover as much as I can. I spot a group of does out in the field. So they've already moved through the brush and they're well out into the middle of the field. They're actually about 200 yards from my position here at the edge of the brush line, but I zoomed in a little bit with the camera. And here you can see they know something's up. They don't see me, but watch how they use their noses. They're trying to smell me. But in this case, I've got the wind blowing into my face, so my scent is not blowing toward the deer. But they are a little suspicious. They moved to the other edge of the field. Some of them moved back into the brush. Maybe it's their sixth sense, I'm not sure. But the wind is still in my favor. And the last of these two does, they're feeding their way along, and pretty soon they'll disappear back into the brush themselves and join that other group of does. I wait until the full moon rises to the east, which casts a little light onto the field, enough light that with my Swaro 15 by 56 binocs I can still pick out shapes, but I don't see any shape of any big bucks.